Caustic Pro Tips Part 2. You can create a telephone effect pretty easy in Caustic. Load up a sample. The game is perpetual motion. Go to the effects rack. Open up a multi-filter. Click on it until it says bandpass. Bring the res down a little bit. Turn up the gain. Now we can have a listen. The game is perpetual motion. Sounds okay, but I think a little distortion could really bring it out. Be sure to turn down the amount in the pre because it's going to be quite loud. The game is perpetual motion. I think a little bit of reverb would make it even better. The game is perpetual motion. A constant array of MIDI sequences based on sound and time. Speaking of bandpass filters, you know you can add some cool movement to your sounds by automating the frequency knob. Here's a bass patch I made. It sounds like this. Now here it is with a bandpass automation. Let's move over to the vocoder. By default, the internal carrier is either set to a saw or square wave. Saw, square. But did you know you can use any oscillator in any machine as a carrier? For example, let's use the bass patch I just created in the modular. Simply select the modular from the carrier source. Now turn down the modular from the mixer. Let's hear how it sounds. I don't think I like the sound. I'm going to move the octaves down one. Now let's have a listen. Much better. Let's load up just a pulse oscillator. Be sure to select it as the carrier and turn down its mixer. Let's drop this down an octave and hear how it sounds. Pulse all the way up. Both those sounded okay, but I think it sounds best when you use a really thin pulse almost all the way down to 0, and it gives it that old school vocoder feel. Let's have a listen. Let's route it to a subsynth. This is cool because now you have all these parameters to modulate the sound. It can be tedious to insert a bunch of glided notes to achieve that iconic portamento effect, but did you know you can create the same effect with the lag processor? All you have to do is simply go to Miscellaneous, select Lag Processor, now flip it around and run the CV note into the lag processor and take it out into the note. If you bring the rate all the way up to 1, there will be no glided notes, but if you drop it down a little bit, now you can hear it. Depending on the sound you want to achieve, you can adjust the rate. Here's the Kill Bill sound. Note how far the lag processor is turned down. They chose a pretty interesting way to delete samples in the PCM synth. If you have something that you don't like, simply select the sample, hit level, now turn the volume all the way down. Now the sample has been deleted. I also found it interesting that they don't have a quick button to initialize patches. Instead, they chose to put them as presets. So if I wanted to clear this rack, I would have to go into my presets and go and find one that says empty. Where is it? Empty. Here we go. Pretty tedious. To make this less of a tedious process, simply save this empty preset, name it 0 Initialize. Now to find it, all you have to do is click in your presets, and it's the very first one. Pretty easy. In other sense, you could find the initialize patch under the word default. For those who don't know, to initialize a patch simply means to bring it to stock settings. If you look closely at the rack scroller, you will see 2 black notches. To quickly jump to the top of the rack, double-click anywhere above this first notch, or if you're on your phone, just double-tap. Now we're at the very top. To quickly jump to the mixer, simply double-click anywhere in between the top notch and the bottom notch. And if you double-click anywhere below the bottom notch, it'll take you to the song sequencer. Since we're in the song sequencer, let me show you how you can make a pattern as long as you want. If you're in the Synths pattern sequencer, all you can do is up to 8 bars. But let's say you wanted to make a really long riser that's 12 bars. Click the top left icon, select what synth you want. Now you can add however long of notes you want. Let's add 12 bars on C2. Now another one on C5. Let's glide this note. Now you have a 12-bar glided note. Have you ever wondered what frequency range the bass, mids, and highs are of the mixer's equalizer? I created a noise patch and exported 1 bar. Here's what it looks like on a spectrum analyzer. Notice how everything's hitting around 47, 48 decibels, starting at around 38 Hz. Here's what it looks like when I drop the bass all the way down. You can see at about the 250 Hz mark, it starts to do about a 12 decibel slope. Here's with the mids turned all the way down. It seems to be affecting around 300 or 400 Hz all the way down to about 1500, and then it gradually starts rising up back again to our 48 decibel mark at around 6000. It's interesting that it also decided to do a little slope starting at about 11,000 Hz. Here's with the highs turned all the way down. It almost seems to be starting at about 2000 Hz, but the noticeable slope is about 4000, and then it peaks down to 20,000. It's also noteworthy that it added a lot of information on the very bottom end. The deeper I dived into Caustic's sound engine, the more I started realizing just how sketchy some of the stuff is. Video complete. Cue music.